slip from Tutan Aribo! A bolt from the blue! Joe Aribo!
Hi there, good evening and welcome to This Is Ibrox, it's your Rangers podcast, and it's Scott Patterson back after a long layoff to welcome you into, or end rather, another good weekend for Rangers. We'll get to what we're going to speak about a little later on tonight, but very pleased to be joined by two of our more veteran contributors. It's Ross. Hi Ross, how are you, buddy?
I'm very good, Scott. Yep. A bit cold after that at Hampden today, but got the result in the end. So, yeah, I'm all good here. Thanks.
And Safdar's back as well after another good Sunday afternoon. Hi, Saf. How are you?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I'm well as well. Looking forward to a discussion. Good end to the weekend, obviously, a few hours ago. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Indeed. So we should say that if you are looking to liaise with us in the comments, of course, you can do that. Just pop your comments into the YouTube feed and we will get to them as and when we possibly can. If you're not following us already, then I suggest you do. Of course, on Twitter and on Instagram, we're at This Is Ibrox. You can also find us on This Is Ibrox at Facebook, and we'll continue to tell you about that as the night goes on, and particularly as the pod continues to get towards 5,000 YouTube followers, which is something we're looking ahead to and something we're looking forward to achieving at last. Ross, you were at the Viaplay League semi-final today. Kind of difficult one for us today, I think, and I actually believe today was probably the big test for Michael Beale. I know we had the sort of Old Firm game a couple of weeks ago, but I do think that one of the remits when he has taken the job from Giovanni Bronkhorst, the cups are important. We need to get our hands on at least one of these cups this season.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the cups, Michael Beale's made it pretty clear that he understands the kind of remit here, that they're crucial for him to get a good start. I think if we're all realistic, there'll need to be a really big turn around in the league for that to change, unfortunately. So Michael Beale is well entitled to focus on these cups. And I think you're right. I think today was, this is really the first time I think he got to see the mentality of the players. Now, I know that we've been down in games under Michael Beale already, but I'd like to think because of the situation in the league, there's a wee bit of pressure off at the moment. I know that should never be the case for Rangers, but I feel that is with the players. And I think that's where we've got a wee bit of a bounce in the league. I think today, listen, I don't think Rangers were at their best today. I think we can all say that. I think the chances were evenly split between the two teams, but I think it showed there is a mentality still within this squad. Are there players in there that need to be moved on? Of course. But big guys stood up today. Ryan Jack, I think, being the main one, not just because of the goal, but I think we've seen in the last couple of games, Ryan Jack getting back to his best. And I think, yeah, today was just all about mentality. You know, going 1-0 down at Hampden, the state of the pitch, which I'm sure something we'll come on to talk to. It's not easy to turn that game around, and the players have done it. So, of course, do we want to win games in a more spectacular fashion? Of course we do. We want to see Rangers go out and batter teams like Aberdeen. Unfortunately, it's going to take a wee bit of time to get there. Went 1-0 down today, and yeah, for me, it's all about mentality, and we showed that today. So I'm coming away from Hampden freezing cold, but yeah, very happy with the result.
Yeah, we should say Curry Muncher has obviously picked up on the fact that my internet connection tonight is absolutely rotten. So you may need to just bear with us tonight, which I'm sure you will. We appreciate you joining us as always. Saf, you know, this is a tournament we've won a record 27 times, so we should go into it with a bit of confidence and we should be looking to win it this year.
Yeah, I mean, as Ross said, I mean, the league is going to be a challenging few months going forward. Obviously, trying to win the league in terms of catching up. So clearly we need to win the cup. We need to win both cups, essentially, in my view, to have an average season this time round. And this was a good opportunity. Glad we got through. From watching it, it was a bit of a workmanlike performance. We kind of, again, you know, lost the goal and we had to come back from behind to win again in extra time. You know, again, making it hard for ourselves in some of our defensive displays and setups and whatnot. But we're through to a final. I remember the last final against Celtic. I'm sure we all do, when we should have won that. So we've got a score to settle there as well. Offside goal. We had a host of chances that evening, that Sunday evening in December, I think it was, if I remember correctly. So we've got a score to settle there, and hopefully the pitch will be in a better condition for that. Because I think, as we were discussing offline prior to coming on, for a national stadium semi-final, maybe final, despite the weather, I get the weather was quite challenging. That you shouldn't be playing in those kind of stadiums for top elite football matches.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I mean we'll come to the state of the Hampden pitch. Which I'll be honest with you, I'm almost surprised that we're talking about the state of the pitch at Hampden. It's been like that for a long time now, and I think it's a bigger debate over the way our game is ran generally. We will certainly cover the state of the pitch as the night goes on. Ross, we lined up with McGregor, Tav, Goldson, Davies and Barisic, Lundstrom, Jack and Tillman playing behind Sakala, Morelos and Kent. Headline from that, I would argue, was starts for Jack, but particularly Alan McGregor. Now, what we have seen in the last couple of weeks is a bit of to and fro with the goalkeepers. We actually heard Michael Beale last week refer to Robbie McCrory, which almost made you think, not necessarily what he played today, but certainly that he's in his thoughts, and he's not ruled out just because he's not one of the two sort of first choice keepers, if you like. But the fact that McLaughlin was in last week and played relatively well, nowhere to be seen today other than on the bench. Wee bit surprising, and I wonder what that does for morale amongst those three guys generally.
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange one, to be honest. I think because I seen McLaughlin play at Dundee United last week, I don't think he had much to do that night, but I thought it was a bit of a statement from Beale to say this is going to be the goalkeeper going into these, it was 3 tricky games coming up. We've obviously got by the first one, so I was a bit surprised to see Alan McGregor. Listen, I think there's a bigger debate there, which I'm sure me and you will get onto as this podcast goes on. But I think we can all admit that none of us are set on who this number one should be. I think we all feel that we do need to upgrade in that department. We definitely need to go into the market for someone. So I was a wee bit surprised to see McGregor today, just because he brought McLaughlin in. I do find it a wee bit strange rotating goalkeepers. I'm not a massive fan of it, to be honest. It is a bit more of a modern approach, but I don't like it personally. I like the goalkeeper to kind of be the set thing in the defence. Yeah. So going back and forth between both, not a big fan. I would rather he just makes his call, and whatever call he makes, that's fine. We'll get behind the goalkeeper. But yeah, I think this is going to keep going on till the end of the season, to be honest, Scott, because I really don't think anyone has any real clue who that number one's going to be going forward. I don't know if you can consider Al McGregor being back as number one today. I know Michael Beale said it in the pre-match, but I wasn't convinced by it. It's a bit of a strange one. As for the rest of the lineup, I think that was exactly what I predicted, to be honest. I always expected Morelos to come back in for this game. I know he spoke highly of Kmart Roofe in the build-up, but I'm not surprised that he is not starting games yet. Not really sure he's there. Fitness-wise, of course, he makes a big contribution in the game. But yeah, for me, didn't really have any problems with the lineup, to be honest. I can have my debate on who I think the goalkeeper should be, but I could understand Michael Beale's approach, and yeah, no real complaints from me there.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I agree with you I certainly agree on the goalkeeper rotation. I find it a little bit bizarre. And I think for as long as we have a settled defensive partnership, I think Goldson and Davies maybe played something like that 8th game or something together today. They surely want someone who they know playing behind them. So for them, I think that's important. Gaza Legend pops in to suggest the middle of the park was honking. Saf, we obviously had Lundstrom and Jack in there. Jack, I actually thought for the second half and for the best part of the sort of extra time, injury time, I thought it was really quite good today. However, I think what you do have, which is helping them out, is Tillman. So Tillman's obviously dropping in and then having the flexibility to move forward. I thought the three of them, for the main part of the game, actually done okay today.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, they went great. Again, I think we suffered from kind of previous games and somewhat. We didn't really get a grip of the midfield somewhat. They took a little bit of control as well at times. and Tillman didn't have his best game. You know, he's kind of average, and he comes in and out. Maybe he's kind of like that, and I get why Michael is maybe holding off from enacting the option to buy him somewhat. Maybe it was the pitch, maybe it was the whole setup, semi-final, whatever. He didn't have his great game, and I kind of agree. We need to, again, that's why we're recruiting in that area. Kind of certainly midfield to front, we do struggle. Obviously defensive, we know about the goalkeeper we just discussed. I personally would have had McLaughlin in goal today. But notwithstanding that, we definitely need to get a grip and get a bit more flexibility in that midfield. See, Kamara came on later on, but certainly, we need more options there, certainly creatively anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, listen, we'll come to this later on. I think one of the things that screamed out for us today was the fact that from tomorrow onwards to the end of the month, we need new faces. We need midfielders in. We need guys with a bit of flair, creativity. We need guys that are going to come in and challenge the people that are in the existing jerseys. I think for as long as we don't have that, you get guys that are getting by with potentially having performances that are just a little bit below par by their own standards, by the standards that they've set. Of course, by supporters, we expect to see a certain way of performance. Of course, we expect that, but these guys can't get away with playing rotten just because there's no one else to come in and take their jersey. So I think that's going to be something we'll come to a little later on. Listen, Rangers started well today. I felt Sakala hit the post with a header, and I have to say, Fashion Sakala looks an entirely different player. If there's ever a player in the top squad, in the current squad rather than the top 11, who has benefited from Giovanni leaving, it is absolutely Fashion Sakala. He's playing very, very well just now. Hit the post. Morelos has a header that sort of rests very nicely on the line, despite his little coupon absolutely sworn it was over the line. It definitely wasn't. I felt of the three, while Sakala looked dangerous and Morelos kind of moved around, I actually thought Ryan Kent played really quite well today. He was always looking for the ball, and this free role that we find him in at the moment, Ross, is really important to the way we're playing, because teams don't know where to pick him up and how to deal with him.
Yeah, definitely a player rejuvenated under Michael Beale, Ryan Kent. I think there's still that problem with him that he doesn't seem to get enough numbers. But I think towards the end of Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, I just felt that he was in a system that just did not suit his skill set at all. I think maybe when Ryan Kent first arrived at Rangers, he was that kind of traditional winger. He hugs the touchline, you get the ball out to him, and he tries to beat his man and get a ball in. Now, since he's been here, he's really developed into an all-round. I would probably say Ryan Kent's more of a number 10 these days, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's very good at, playing wide and hugging the touchline if he has to be. But I think just because under Van Bronckhorst, he was kind of... The whole tactical approach, I felt, was give the ball to Ryan and let's hope he can do something. Yeah. And I just don't think that suits him at all. I think the ability in this team for him to kind of float around, and he's got kind of designated players around him to feed off of, really helps him. I have to say, maybe the second half and deep into extra time when he was coming deep to get the ball from the centre-back, not a big fan of that. But as for the kind of free role that Ryan Kent has now, absolutely. I mean, we're seeing the best of him. I think I've always defended Ryan Kent on this podcast, maybe too much sometimes. I think I say that a lot, but I think what Ryan Kent always gives you, even if he's not delivering in front of goal and getting numbers, is he works hard every single game. He tracks back, he follows runners. Does he always make the tackle? Maybe not, but he always gives his all for the jersey, and that's all I want when someone plays here. If he moves on to the end of the season, that's fine with me. As long as when he's here, he gives everything, that's fine. And I think that's what we get from Ryan Kent. So, yeah, I totally agree. Definitely rejuvenated under Michael Beale. We're really seeing the best of him now in that free role. And he probably is the first name in the team sheet, other than probably Goldson and Tavernier. I think he's the one that's really stamped his authority on this team now. And that's going to be good for us going forward. But if we can get the best out of Ryan Kent this season, I'm sure that we can get some success out of this season, definitely.
Saf, of course, we did see a goal in the first half before Aberdeen took the lead. They scored a goal that was deemed to be offside. I'll tell you, there wasn't a lot in it, and I remember being wholly relieved to see that it was given as offside. What I would say, and McGregor got a bit of stick in our WhatsApp group, and I seen it on social media. He got a bit of stick for that goal. Majowski, I thought, was really good for Aberdeen today. And it was some finish. I mean, if it was my player, I'd be delighted with a striker making a finish like that in a semi-final. He was good today, but I think defensively in that first half, particularly with the disallowed goal and then the goal that Aberdeen scored, which we'll come on to, I was a wee bit concerned about the channel between Ben Davies and Borna Barisic. They were aiming for that area. They definitely felt they were going to get joy there today.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, like I was relieved, obviously, when the flag went up. It was a good finish. You can argue McGregor should have been a bit more aggressive, came out and dealt with it, or certainly commanded his box with a bit more authority and confidence. I don't know whether it was the conditions or the way, psychologically, the way they were set up, but certainly the defence was certainly nervous at times, certainly when Aberdeen were trying to move forward and trying to get the balls in the box. And yeah, I mean, that was a great finish. You're absolutely right. The lad, cracking finish by him. Glad it was the flag went up, and we could have done better. And again, I'm sure we'll touch on their goal, but certainly it's one of these where we need to really up our game, be a bit more attentive to what's going on. And I think there's some there's people mentioning the comments. I mean, certainly whenever McGregor plays, when I see the lineup and McGregor's playing, I do get nervous. There's going to be a goal here. He's going to, they're going to score. The opposition are going to score, guaranteed almost. I think we've seen the stats. 11 shots on target, 7 goals then, or something like that. Some crazy number over the last 3 or 4 weeks, which should never be happening for a Rangers team. We should be having, minimal goals scored against shots taken against us, and that's not happening at all. So. Yeah, I'm glad it didn't go in. Otherwise, it could have been a different match if it had gone in and they'd got more confidence from that.
Absolutely. Ross, Aberdeen take the lead midway through the first half. I don't have the number written down when they actually scored. All I do remember, and I flashed up a message from Shona, who's watching on YouTube. Our defenders can't defend with balls over the top. I'd be more concerned personally at our defenders just stopping, particularly our sort of left back, who's just rocked up back from World Cup with a medal in his hip pocket. Of all of them, I would argue that he'd be the one that you could expect to play the whistle. I think if anyone's played football at any standard, whether you're playing you played when you were 12-year-old to playing now, to play the whistle, you always play the whistle, and we didn't do that today, and we badly got caught out for the first goal.
Yeah, I totally agree with the statement on Barisic there. You must play to the whistle. You are told to play to the whistle when you're 5-year-old. I remember playing when I was 5-year-old, and that is what you're told. As soon as it starts, you play to the whistle. Respect the referee. I know that maybe doesn't go as far these days when you watch professional football, but that is what you're told. And it's really poor from Barisic. What I will say is that was Aberdeen's game plan from the start. Aberdeen obviously recognised the size of the Hampden pitch, and I think it was Shona that was saying that defending balls over the top. I think it's difficult when you're playing such a high line and such a big pitch. You're ultimately going to be tracking back quite a lot, and that's really what I do want to see from this Rangers team. I want to see them high up the park. I want to see them try and pen teams in. And I think, to be honest, this goal is... I'm sure if Aberdeen fans maybe watch this back, I'm sure they won't. But if they did, I'm going to say it's a bit of a fluke now, not because of the finish from Majowski. Once he gets into that position, it is a good finish from him. But I think Borna Barisic switching off is the first error. And I know we spoke about this in the WhatsApp group earlier. I think McGregor has to come off his line here. Now, I have watched it back when I got back into the house there. In the stadium, I couldn't believe that he didn't come off his line. I was actually right behind that goal today. And I thought, okay, I'll give it a wee bit of time. I'll watch that back later. I'm still convinced. I just think he has to come off of his line. And I don't think that was the only instance today where we've seen McGregor hesitant. We've seen it in the 6-yard box. Aberdeen were piling bodies in there, and they were putting the ball in there at every set piece. And I have to agree with Saf. I do get quite nervous watching Alan McGregor in goals now. I never used to be like that. In fact, it would be the total opposite. I always had full confidence in this guy. Now there's just a wee bit of nervousness there every game. And I think you can feel it with our defenders as well. I think they're quite anxious with McGregor in goals, which is, it's sad that it's got to this state, to be honest, because this guy's been absolutely immense for us over the years. So I think that is the two errors from Borna Perisic. What I will say as well is I think Ben Davies is really poor here because he just has no awareness that Majowski's running off his shoulder. I think he thinks that Matty Kennedy is the only Aberdeen boy that's burst forward, and he thinks he's maybe going to have to beat Borna and make something of the chance. Yeah. And he just clips it across the 6-yard box. And listen, it's a good finish. Would McGregor have maybe said that years ago? Maybe, but I'm not going to put anything on McGregor there in terms of the finish from Majowski. It's a good finish. But yeah, listen, you can see it in every single goal, Scott. There's always points of errors that you can talk about. And I think there was quite a few there for Rangers. And it was really disappointing because I thought at that stage, Aberdeen maybe had a good 10 minutes before that, but we started to take control again. And it's just a nothing ball up the field, let's be honest. Yeah. Borna switched off and gave them an opportunity. So really, really poor goal to lose. Really disappointing. And I think when you're playing a team like Aberdeen, it's the worst thing you can do. It's the worst thing you can do is give them a goal at that because they're going to sit on it. And you've seen that in the second half performance. They really did sit in and kind of hope for the best. Obviously, it didn't turn out well for them, but I just think goals like that, losing goals like that in a semi-final, just really, really poor from Rangers there.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's easy to... I think it's almost easy to focus on the fact that Borna Perisic stops and Matty Kennedy comes from running behind him. So Borna Perisic is waiting on a whistle from somewhere, doesn't come. So he stops. And Davies has been really good for the last couple of weeks. His distribution for the back, generally, I've been really impressed with him. He's exactly what we hoped he would be. I think we've seen glimpses of what we hope he's going to be. But his awareness today, I felt, for the duration of the game was really, really poor. And I don't know if it was because Majowski, I felt, played really quite well. I felt it gave him a lot to think about. And it's probably the first time I've looked at Ben Davies today and thought, I think we expect a little bit better from you. I didn't think he played well today. There was a couple of times he was caught deep when the other three defenders were moving up as well. So, yeah, I think generally I think a disappointing day for Ben Davies and Borna as well. I have to say, I didn't think he sort of showered himself in glory at all. And I think if I look through the comments, Kyle McLean, I assume that's our own Kyle McLean, he speaks about signings needed pronto, but he also made a comment on the availability of Yilmaz. And if he does have a bit about him, he's surely going to be our first choice left back, which I think when you consider the outlay, I think there's a good chance that indeed will happen. If we go in 1-0 at half time, panic stations. I think it's fair to say at that point, everyone is kind of thinking, I know I said it myself, I think I put it in the chat, when you look at the options available on the bench and the type of players they aren't going to come on to a really mucky, messy semi-final at Hampden and influence and or change the game. I was concerned at that point.
Yeah, quite rightly. I think we all were. We were kind of nervous. Semi-final, 1-0 down. Pure pitch, not great weather. You feel that this is going against us. Certainly, I know we've turned it around in the past in terms of going behind more recently, but certainly think, nervous. We didn't play that well in the first half. In flashes, we had chances. Obviously, Sakala's chance right at the start as well. But certainly, you were nervous. It wasn't great. They should never have scored that goal. They should never have been 1-up. You can argue. I mean, that goal, just to add on what Ross said, was comical, was embarrassing. Call it what you want in terms of description. Switching off. It looked like slow motion freeze frame. They didn't, for 2 or 3 seconds, and suddenly they start running again. It's just comical what happened. And defending McGregor, I think, should have done better. Even then, he kind of rooted to the spot, and the boys scored. Luckily, we improved somewhat, but certainly, half time. I think Michael Beale said he kind of made the impression to them that don't lose heart, keep focused, you can do better, things like that. Just kind of rather than panicking as such, I guess. But yeah, certainly not a great start as ever as Rangers fans, I think we're used to the stresses now of watching them and match in, match out. It's not even against the top opposition, even against the smaller teams. We're kind of getting put through the stressometer.
Ross, I felt we started the second half really quite well, front foot, a lot of territory. I didn't think that Aberdeen really gave us much to worry about as we came out after our sort of magic sponges and tangerines. What I would say is that the goal that we did score to bring things back level, I thought was a really well worked move. Jack, Kent, Morelos, and Jack with the eventual finish. I think there's a very slight deflection in there to take it beyond the Aberdeen goalkeeper, but it was a lovely move by those three, and I thought that was a catalyst to what we've seen for the remainder of that half.
Yeah, I think we'll come on to it. I think both goals today from Rangers were really good, actually. Really good bits of play for both goals. I was really impressed with both Ryan Kent and I think it's Ryan Jack, actually, with the flick, but more Morelos here, because I've seen Morelos over the years put that onto his right foot and crack a shot, and usually he drags it by the post. And I think today you definitely seen some of the best of Morelos again. The flicks around the corner, holding his man off. I thought the start of the second half, Morelos was right up for it. He really came out as a player looking to prove something. I thought he was really good in that first kind of 5-10 minutes of that second half. And yeah, I think the goal's really good. Of course, it's a little bit of luck. It takes a deflection that goes in the corner, but the build-up play for that goal was really good, and Rangers deserved a wee bit of luck at that stage. I definitely felt they were the best team. I felt Aberdeen came out, wanted to sit deep, sit in their shape, try and frustrate Rangers. I mean, you've seen it from Roofe's early second half. He's wasting time. That tells you all you need to know, and really wasting time as well. Not the odd thing, he's going down with cramp and things like that. The beauty of it, we scored, I think, a couple of minutes later after Roofe's had that kind of show. So that was really satisfying. And yeah, that seems a bit petty from me, but seeing Ryan Jack score against them at Hampden is just a wonderful sight. This guy, he takes a lot of stick off of Aberdeen fans over the years since he left them, but he absolutely loves giving it back when he can. And yeah, the celebration was great to be part of actually today in Hampden, seeing that. He's running, grabbing the badge. Listen, that's what it's all about. You just want the players to be as passionate as you on that park. And I think Rangers really came into the game at that point, and it was the perfect time to get a goal. I just felt that we really had to take advantage of how strong we were at the start of that second half, because I felt we were quite strong in the first half and didn't take advantage of it. So yeah. Sometimes you see psychologically with players, they just feel it's not their day. So I was really, really happy to see us get that goal. And yeah, wonderful to see Ryan Jack get it, because they absolutely despise him. So it's great. It's great.
Saf, so obviously Ryan Jack's going into a really crucial part of his career. Next sort of 4 or 5 months are really, really important for him. Second goal of the season for him today at Hampden. Listen, at the moment, I think a lot of fingers point towards Ryan Jack getting another year's contract in the summer. Michael Beale mentioned about how much he rates him almost when he was sort of a couple of days in the door. There's a good chance that Ryan Jack, I think, will be a fixture at Rangers for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Michael's worked with him for many years, and when under the Gerrard regime, Ryan Jack, when he's fit, has got a part to play in Rangers, whether it's a squad player to come on, or when there's some sort of rotation that we need to freshen up, whatever. He's got that kind of dig about him. He's got that kind of awareness around him as well. He's got, decent passing movement. He can score a goal, as we know, today, and the final, the Scottish Cup final as well. So certainly, I think, provided he keeps himself injury-free, or we can get through. He can get through that spell again. Fingers crossed, he's out of that bad spell that we've had for many weeks and months. He certainly is, for me anyway, a good kind of squad player, a good option for us to have, whether that's here domestically or even in Europe. He's shown some good touches, a good class against European opposition as well, from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that so? Sorry, Ross, did you just flash up? Is that Ian Mitchell with a sheep at the end of that? I can't think possibly what that means. Listen, I felt the second half was there was a lot of to and fro, and it was quite obvious at one point during the second half. You're thinking, this is just going to go extra time and then penalties. And some poor bugger's going to miss a penalty and it's going to be a disaster. And, do you know what I mean? The pressure will be on Beale straight away. Not a lot happened in the second half. I was quite surprised at, to be honest. And then, out of nowhere, the Aberdeen captain has an absolute moment of madness, which completely changes the game, by the way. We have to say, if Connor Goldson does this in the last minute of the 90, and it was into the injury time of the 90 minutes, you're raging because you've let your full team down and you know you've got 30 minutes injury time, additional extra time to come and try and qualify for a final. Ross, I don't know if you've had I know you were at the game, so I don't know if you've had the chance to see the tackle back, and without sounding like Jim White, super slow-mo, it is an absolute shocker.
Yeah, so when I was at the ground today, that I'm behind that goal, so it was far right corner for me, and I did think originally, okay, the way Sakala's fallen maybe makes that tackle look worse than it was. Now, it's very difficult when you're in the stadium to have a real 100% certainty that it's a red card, right? Of course, you take a lot of joy in seeing the red card come out, and I'm actually really happy it was for, I believe it is Anthony Stewart, his name is. The comments before the game around Morelos and Cholak. I mean, Jim Goodwin must have been absolutely furious with him for doing something like that. It's just not worth it. So it was really good to see him get that red card. He'll learn from that, I'm sure. I don't think he'll be doing anything like that again. I did watch it back when I get in, and it's a shocker. It really is a shocker. You watch it, you maybe think, no, he's maybe, when I first watched it, I went, oh, is it maybe a wee bit unlucky there? And then you just watch it, you watch the behind camera shot of the kind of byline or the touchline. It's awful. It's a really, really bad tackle. I'm glad that it was just a red card straight away. No VAR nonsense involved in it. Nick Walsh got the decision right and we got on with the game. Yeah, it's a really, really poor tackle. And listen, if you're Aberdeen, right, I understand Rangers podcast, but if you're an Aberdeen fan, you're absolutely distraught there because you've managed to take the game to extra time. I thought Rangers were the much better team in the second half. And to get to extra time for Aberdeen would have maybe gave them a lot of momentum going into it because they'd realised they'd got there, they'd taken Rangers through that, they have the psychological advantage, and he's just chucked all that away. And I mean, of course, we're going to come on to the goal that we score in extra time. Listen, we had a lot more space with the extra man, and it's just a really poor decision from Stewart. But of course, great for us. And I'm really thankful, actually, that Sakala gets his leg up, because if he doesn't get his leg up, I think I seen Alan McCoy's talking about it on the coverage. He snaps his leg in half. It is a really, really bad tackle. Dangerous play, violent conduct, whatever you want to put it. It's a shocker. It's a clear red card.
Yeah, and you know, these sort of tackles are, you'll do well to outlaw these for the game. Let's be brutally honest with you, because the game is played at it's a fast rate. You get guys that are faster in the mind, at the feet than others. And then you get guys like Fashion Scala, who sometimes doesn't know what he's going to do next. And I think in a lot of cases that is the case. Today I thought it was really good. I think Paul McGarrigle has jumped in and said that he was probably player of the match today, which I would tend to agree with. He certainly wasn't far off it. It's a shocking tackle. If his leg's planted in the ground, you're not seeing him until next season. It's as simple as that. Really disappointing tackle. And as I say, if I was an Aberdeen fan, which thankfully I'm not, it would have been something that would have really hacked you off, I think, as extra time sort of pans out. Saf, so we know we're going to extra time. There must be very little things as satisfying for a manager knowing that substitutes can change the games. And one of the things that often frustrates me about when you get an extra time is that you wait for a long period of time for a goal, and it doesn't happen in that second half of 45 minutes. But Michael Beale makes 2 substitutions in 3 minutes into extra time. Rangers go 2-1 up. And I have to say, the much maligned Scott Wright, really, really good. To the byline, inside for Kemar Roofe. Both were excellent when they came off the bench. I felt really impressed with both.
Yeah, I think the subs, Michael Beale the subs were well timed. He did well. Beautiful goal to finish. Very tidy, clean goal. I think Scott Wright did really, really well. Really aggressive. Got behind his man, aggressive to the byline, then the cross, and Kemar Roofe. Very simple, but hard to do as well at the same time. Great goal, great shot, and bang. You're 2-1 up early in the first period of extra time. And as you say, Scott, as despite them being a man down, extra time, anything can happen. You worry about penalties. You worry about them holding on again with the conditions and all the rest of it. So it was good to just get that reassurance somewhat at the start of the first period of extra time. And as I said, very, very simple, clean, solid goal, and more of that. And Scott Wright can do a lot of that. We know he can do that, but he hasn't clearly more recently. And it was good timing, good substitutions, clearly worked. Obviously, Kemar had to come off again. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But yeah, it was a great goal.
Ross
Scott,
Chalmers,
can I just touch on that? Yeah, can I just touch on that quickly, because I think Scott Wright today, obviously he's done really well for that goal, but I think that is what Scott Wright can give this team. Now, I'm never going to argue that Scott Wright should play for Rangers starting 11. That is not the type of player he is. He just does not have the technical ability. But I think in a game like today, Aberdeen are a man down, or Rangers are maybe protecting a lead, he's very good at utilising the space, Scott Wright. He's actually a very good dribbler. Maybe he doesn't have the rest of the qualities that would make him elite and make him starting for Rangers every week, but he's a very good dribbler. He does really well to beat Matty Kennedy, drive to the byline, which I think I've said in this podcast before, we don't do enough of this. This is a very effective way to score goals if you can get to the byline. Cutting the ball back we see all the top teams in the world play this way. It's a great way to make chances. He does really well, and Kemar Roofe as well, right? It looks easy, but he drifts into the box. He's with his man, and he just does. Listen, we've seen it over the years with kind of Chris Boyd, Ali McCoy's. He just takes a step back, just one step. It's nothing big. He creates the space for him, and it's a really good finish. It's actually a really, really good goal. Of course, a lot of people are like, oh, Rangers had a man advantage. It's really well worked. So I think a lot of credit has to go to Scott Wright there. We need to see more of him when he's in a Rangers jersey. He needs to give more, because a lot of people feel this is probably the end for him and he will move on in the summer. And if he wants to be one of the guys that stays around, we need to see more of this when he gets the opportunity. But today, he deserves a lot of credit. You know, he's won this game for Rangers by taking on his man and getting to the byline. So really good to see.
Yeah, listen, I have to agree with you. I'm not a huge fan of Scott Wright, but I thought he made a difference today. I really did. I thought he made a difference. I feel he comes on and he gives us that ability to run. And I think after the guys have been on for 90 minutes, having someone on who's fresh against a team of 10 men, it makes sense to have him on and around the team. And of course, he set up the winner for Roofe. Going to stick with you, Ross, actually, because one of the frustrations that I think has came from today is that, albeit Roofe, of course, has got the winner, lovely finish. He's then had to go off injured again, which is incredibly frustrating considering we know that Cholak's injured. Now, I believe Michael Beale said post-match that they're hoping it's not as bad as what they first thought, which we've heard so many times with Kemar Roofe in the past. Ross, it must be really frustrating for the footballing department that they get Kemar Roofe up to a standard to go, and he looks ready to go, and then he breaks down.
Yeah, I think a lot of Ranger fans have the same opinion, that if Kemar Roofe was 100% fit all of the time, he wouldn't be at Rangers. That is why we managed to get him from Anderlecht. We got him for a bit of a cut price deal. He was absolutely flying for Leeds before he left and went to Anderlecht, and he just ran into injury problems there. We've obviously picked him up for a cut price deal. Of course, he contributed a lot to that 55 season, but we just haven't seen enough of Kemar Roofe. And I have no doubt, I agree with most Rangers fans here, that if we could get something out of this guy, more out of this guy, you could probably sell him on, because that's the quality he's got. He has a real ability to sniff out goals from nothing, and he's actually pretty technically good as well. So it's really frustrating. I can't disagree with everyone's opinion that he is just, I mean, the guy next to me was like, oh, this boy's made of glass, and another guy behind me was like, that'll be him out for the season. And I totally understand why people have this perception of him, because he just can't seem to get a run. What I will say for this one is, it just looks like a really unfortunate one. I don't think it's related to any injury he's got. He's just had a rough fall. He's just had a rough landing. And when he first got up, that was my side of the pitch. He was kind of holding his arm up. So I thought, it's probably a dislocated shoulder. It's actually really good they've came out and said it's not. So let's hope it's some sort of sprain or something of his arm. We can maybe see him back in a couple of weeks, because I think this is someone we need to try and make the most out of. He's on quite a bit of money, Kmart Roofe at Rangers, and he's signed up for another year after this one. So we need to try and get the best out of him. And I'm no doubt about it when he plays. He really is an asset for us. So it is really frustrating that he comes on, he delivers again for us, he gets us that goal. Michael Beale knows that's what he gives us, and we're not going to see him again for a couple of weeks. It's really, really difficult. But listen, all the best to him. Let's hope we see him again this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree. Saf, before we, I want to speak a little bit about VAR, and I also want to do a little bit about the state of the pitch. However, as extra time goes on, I'm going to bring up a couple of comments that hopefully you can see if you're looking on us on the YouTube feed. Andrew Morrison says that McGregor has 3 class saves. 2 I can certainly remember in the sort of dying embers of extra time. He really keeps us in it at the end. I mean, there's a couple of good opportunities that Aberdeen have to take it to penalties. And you know what I mean? Let's be honest, if we're sitting here tonight and we're talking about losing a goal at the death against a 10-man Aberdeen to go to penalties to potentially qualify for the league, this is a different pod entirely. You know what I mean? So I think you have to give credit to Alan McGregor for those saves towards the end of the game.
No, you do, yeah, right, especially right at the end. I think it was injury time of extra time when we gave the ball away, and they nearly scored from that, and McGregor made a good save. But I think on balance, certainly for me, on balance, his mistakes outweigh those saves. You can argue McLaughlin could have made those saves as well that McGregor made in that period, and maybe would have minimised some of the mistakes as well, whether that's to the goal or other stress points in the match. But yeah, I mean, clearly McGregor did that, but I suppose that's what he's there to do. That's his job. They were good saves. I wouldn't say they were like world class or exceptional. It was poor defending or poor losing the ball from us that led to that as well at the same time.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. I think, listen, the goalkeeper is a unique position. He's there to save. If he's Alan McGregor, if he's John McLaughlin, if he's Robbie McCrory, if he's Jesper Christensen, he's there to save. You make sure that he's there to do his job, and that's ultimately what you're looking for from a goalkeeper. Saf, speak to me about the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of things I would say, Scott. Okay, so you got a national stadium. Okay, you had a match 24 hours prior. Weather isn't great. A couple of things. I think the pitch was a disgrace, despite all of what I've just said. And fingers crossed, it's improved for the final in, 6 weeks' time. And secondly, unless I'm missing something, there's some sort of comment about VAR not working, then working again in extra time. I mean, what's that all about? In a semi-final, again, that could lead to a final and all the rewards that you get from that. Again, it's a bit comical, a bit amateurish, a bit lower league stuff. To be honest with you, it's embarrassing. The pitch and this kind of whole VAR issue. Thank God there wasn't any controversial issue that needed VAR or not, as the case may be.
The last thing we need is a controversial VAR issue, let's be honest.
Exactly. We've had so many of them recently. But yeah, the pitch was bad. It was cutting up. Even as Ross said, prior to coming on, he could see the ball not playing that well across it. I think we need Hampden, the authorities, SFA need to invest in one of these hybrid pitches or whatever, more quality pitches, because you can get them now for any climate and have a really strong layout for the full season, and we need that 100%.
Yeah, and listen, I totally agree with you. I was stunned at just how bad the pitch was, without really there being any sort of rubbish weather during the day. I mean, the pitch was the way it was. It just cut up with the play on it, which I felt was really incredible, and I appreciate. So, there was the first semi-final of the weekend was on it yesterday, and they had dealt with pretty dodgy weather during the game and the night before, but there was no rain for the game today, and it was just it just shows you how poor that pitch is. As I said earlier on, it's not something that is particularly surprising. It's Scottish football, and it's happening.
So just to add, Scott, I mean, as we know, it's a bit of a cliche, but the pitch is a leveler often
Of course it
in
is.
these kind of games, against skill, against movement. Even if you look at Ranjak's goal, when Kent made that lovely pass to him, there was a bit of a bubble there as
There
well
was,
to get
yeah.
to that. Luckily in our favour, but still. So it's a shame that even now on our podcast, we have to talk about the state of a pitch in 2023.
I know it's like a Beach Grove Garden pod, isn't it? For goodness
I
sake.
know.
Ross, listen, you were in the ground today. One of the big headlines I think that we're going to have, and it's particularly embarrassing, but it's Scottish football in the space of 90 minutes, I think, or 120 minutes rather. I apologise. VAR just stopped working, and I wasn't there, but I believe they announced it at the stadium that it wasn't working. But then did they not make a VAR decision after saying they weren't referring to VAR or something like that as extra time went on? What was it like being in the stadium when that announcement was made?
So what I'll say from being in the stadium today was I had no idea that VAR was not working in the last period of extra time, right? So that might have went over the tannoy, didn't hear it. Yeah, it is quite noisy in the Rangers end, so
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that actually until I came out of the stadium. There was a lot of frustration within the fans though that Nick Walsh just seemed to be leaving the park every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
There was one where I actually thought he was maybe checking for a red card or something to do with McGregor or Kmart Roofe, and he ran down the tunnel, and I was like, well, this doesn't look good if it's taking that long. Comes back in the park, talks to McGregor, and play goes. So everyone was like, what is going on here? I don't understand. So maybe that makes more sense now that VAR wasn't working. As for that itself, it's embarrassing, right? It's embarrassing because, listen, it could be either way with Rangers or Aberdeen. If you go into extra time and you don't get something, you don't get a penalty that you should get or whatever, there's an offside decision, what happens? The game would be going to disrepute there, because that is totally unfair for the VAR to be used 90 minutes and not to be used in extra time.
Yeah.
It's just comical, right? And I think we all, the funny thing is when I came out the ground and I seen that on Twitter, the announcement that it wasn't working, I just laughed. There was no anger. I just couldn't expect it from the SFA and the governing bodies. Do you get what I mean? How poor is that is the kind of expectation of our game? And I always say this, right? We get a bad rap up here for our football. I think there's a lot of good players in our league out with Rangers. I'm just going to say that. I think we do have a lot of good footballers up here and the standards improving, but things like that don't help us. They really don't help us. Referees not getting decisions right that they clearly should. VAR not working, the national pitch being cut up completely when, two decent teams are trying to play on it. It's just really, really difficult to defend Scottish football when things like this happen. So yeah, all I can say to that, Scott, is it's just hilarious, really, and it's not unexpected at this stage. It's just Scottish football, and listen, maybe we just need more money put into this game for things to change, because I don't really see anything changing with the way things are going, unfortunately. I think this is going to be what it's like for the foreseeable.
Listen, it's maybe fair to suggest that the VAR guys today were using the same internet service that I'm using tonight, to be perfectly honest. Listen, Michael Beale said at the end of the game, Saf, that he's obviously pleased for the support and the players to progress to another final. Big deal. I think he will. He'll use the next 6 weeks to get the guys absolutely up to speed as far as expectancy etc. is concerned. One thing that he did bring up, which I thought was quite clever, was that he referred to the mentality of the players and the attitude of the players. And that's something that I think has been questioned quite rightly, pre-Michael Beale under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, and how maybe some of these attitudes have changed since Michael Beale's came in. He was very quick to say that he doesn't have any doubts over their mentality and their will to win, etc. I think he managed maybe what could have been a bit of a different press conference, because I don't think Rangers played particularly well today, but I felt he's managed that really quite well tonight, press conference.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Michael's been now working with them for a few months, 6 weeks or so, and it's been interesting because you can see during Gio's reign and now the slight differences, the value add, to use that term, that he's brought to Rangers as the manager. And we've seen other examples of that again against Aberdeen when we scored 2 in injury time, and that kind of will to win or just keep going. And as you say, Scott, today wasn't a great match. You know, weather was okay. Pitch was, as we said, very poor. We had to kind of dig in, get the result. You know, extra time. We've got another final to look forward to. We all like finals. We want to win finals. That's what Rangers are all about, winning finals and leagues. So we go again. And he's got now a bit more time to prepare for it. Again, we got 2 weeks until the transfer window. The window shuts. Again, as we know, there's common knowledge that we're looking to bring in some players probably this week. So fingers crossed we can do that. Get the injured players back as well, that are yet to come back. You know, Hadji, Yilmaz, and a few others, and then we go again on late Feb around that. And I'm really impressed with Michael Beale since he's joined as manager. He's not done much wrong. Whether what he's been saying, as well as the team, you can argue against Celtic. We should just dug in there for that last 5-10 minutes, just been a bit more clever. But notwithstanding that, you know, he's done well. You know, we've been winning hard. It's been tough, but slowly he's getting there. And I think even he recognizes, he does, he's on record as saying it. It's a big job to do. There's a turnaround. There's a lot of investment needed from into the first team, never mind the squad players. He's talking about first team players coming in and playing from scratch. And hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we'll see elements of that. He wouldn't have come in unless he was given reassurances by the board that he's got funding, or he's got promises of funding to shape his team. And hopefully some of that will now come through in the next 2 weeks as we go into Feb and all the rest of it.
Ross, today was the start of a really interesting week, and as I say, I do think Michael Beale's handled the occasion today really well. As I say, this I'm sure will be a critical sort of milestone in Michael Beale's Rangers career. I'm sure when he's came up, one of the things they've said is, you know what I mean, we expect, regardless of what happens in the league, do you know what I mean, these are our cups, go and bring them back, make a point of winning them. And it's a big week for him. You know, we were Kilmarnock on Wednesday night, where we still continue trying to claw back this 9-point deficit. But the games don't stop there, because next weekend we've got the Scottish Cup tie up at McDermott Park. So I think today was a big one for him, and I think he by hook or by crook, he had to get the guys over the line today, and he had to get into that final in February.
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Saf said there in terms of mentality today. I think it was really big for Michael Beale today. I think he understands, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, that the 2 domestic trophies are really important this season for Rangers. I think Michael Beale spoke about before his frustration in that season, that 55 season, that he couldn't really enjoy it because he didn't win the domestic cups that year. And listen, that's great to hear from a fan. I really enjoy listening to Michael Beale. I think he's a really good start. I think this will be a really tough week for Rangers again. I will be there in Kilmarnock on Wednesday night. I'm expecting it to be freezing, and I'm expecting to watch a horrible game of football on that pitch. It always is. Again, it's going to come down to the mentality of the players to get through. I think what we've seen from Michael Beale when he's came back is, I feel like he's simplified things a wee bit. He's just started to move players around and put them back into roles that they're comfortable with. You know, you could really go through the whole team. We spoke about Ryan Kent earlier. He's starting to play Fashion Scala kind of off that right, kind of like a hybrid kind of striker, a role he's really comfortable in. He's moved Tillman back a role that he seems really comfortable in. Nothing about moving him out wide or behind the strike. He just seems comfortable there. He's got Tavernier and Barisic. I know we have a lot of opinions on Borna Barisic, but it is a role he's comfortable with, and I do think you get the best of him when he's high. And I think we've seen that from both sides, Tavernier and Barisic. So I really like Michael Beale and the start he's had. It will be a big week. It'll be a tough week. Kilmarnock and St Johnstone will both go into these games with a lot of confidence, probably because Rangers haven't been at their best yet, and they probably feel there is an opportunity to get a result. So they really need to be at it. But listen, I have a lot of confidence in Michael Beale. He was someone that he wasn't necessarily my first choice, but it was definitely a manager that I could get on board with. And I think the board have been proven right here. Of course, he needs to go and win shiny things, and he won't be judged properly until he does that.
Yeah.
But I think the start that we've had under Michael Beale, the players look to be playing for him again. And I think we lost that under Van Bronckhorst. There was numerous players, you could pick them out and think they're just not giving everything they've got here for this manager. You can see that again from the players, that they are giving it for this manager. That's what we want. That's all we want. We want to win, but you want to see a team that really understands what it means to play for Rangers. So listen, going to be a difficult week, like you said. I'm really looking forward to it, and there's a real opportunity to progress in this cup again and to keep momentum in the league. I've said at the beginning of this podcast, it's going to be very difficult for Rangers to take this league back, but that's from a fan's perspective. Those players have to believe they can win this league. That's exactly what I want from them. So let's go to Kilmarnock. Hopefully psychologically aren't going to get place after two losses in a row, and let's go and get a victory. And then let's get through the next round of the Scottish Cup, and let's keep the momentum going. He's got a really good record already, and let's see more of the same. Let's keep going.
I'll stick with you, Ross. Do you think we're going to see new players this week?
I think so. We had a discussion in the WhatsApp chat this week about the kind of how forward Michael Beale is in his press conferences. Yep. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people like it. I'm kind of in the middle with it. I'm probably just enjoying it at the moment because you couldn't get anything out of Van Bronckhorst. He was very media trained. It was very much, I will tell you what I want you to know, and that's it. You just really couldn't get anything out of them. And there was a lot of frustration building with the fans because of that. And they couldn't really connect with him. And I think that's something, I've said this before, Gerrard got that straight away. He really built a connection with the fans, and that's why he got time. And I think Beale realises that as well. That's the way to kind of get the love from the Rangers fans, is to build a connection with them. So he's really forward. And I think the only reason he was really forward that week about signing is that he must believe that it's basically done. There must be a couple of players coming in. Who they're going to be, I'm not sure, to be honest. The only one that I'm pretty certain on is Todd Cantwell. It is a player I would like to see. I think it's a player that we're kind of crying out for, someone we could really utilise. I think we've seen of a lot today. Listen, Ryan Jack was fantastic today, especially in the second half. But we'd seen a lot today that Lundstram and Ryan Jack, the two of them, neither are comfortable taking the ball in the half turn. They're just not comfortable with their back to goal. And it really doesn't help us in the build-up at all. And we do struggle to break through the line sometimes. And I think that's why you see Ryan Kent coming deep and Tillman coming deep, because these guys are very comfortable in possession like that. So I think we need someone in there that we can plug in for a Ryan Jack or a John Lundstram in games where we're going to dominate the ball. And I think Todd Cantwell is someone that could do that. Not necessarily as one of those three midfielders, but could be moved forward and you maybe drop someone in. I'm not sure. Michael Beale will decide that, obviously, but I definitely think Todd Cantwell is a player that we can see the best of here. Listen, this guy was being linked with 40, 50 million moves 18 months ago. I seen a video of it on Twitter the other day. 18 months ago, been linked to Aston Villa for 40, 50 million. This boy has talent. If we can get this boy up the road for a small fee and work with Beale, he says, as a development coach, I think this is the kind of profile we need to be signing as a club. I've said this all the time. Someone that you can bring in, develop, and hopefully sell on. So I'm all for Todd Cantwell. And let's hope we can see some other ones as well, because we definitely need it. I think we can all agree on that.
Saf, it was interesting to hear Michael Beale say pre-match for the game today that he had done his bit in air commas, which would suggest he's had the conversations. The guys, if they have been in and around the stadium and indeed the city, they've been shown around. They've shown where they can go, where they should go, where they shouldn't go. They've been introduced to maybe people within the club, and they've been shown around Ibrox. He's done his bit in that case, which I think is fair to say. He's now looking for probably the board to go that extra mile, and I would imagine stamp on the promises they probably made to Michael Beale prior to bringing him up from London.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment, Scott. Michael said he's identified the players he wants within the budget that he's been given, whether that's a salary budget or signing fee budget. So he's identified them. They've been in talks. So it's nice up to the board and the senior guys to close the deals, as they say, on salaries and everything else that goes on in signing up a player. And so he's done his football side. It's up to the business people in the club to do the business side of it with the players' agents and families or whatnot. fingers crossed, that'll happen now. And it's not like, you know, somebody's wanting a lot more money and we can't afford. I'm sure Michael would have identified the right ones for the fit that he's looking for. Ross mentioned Cantwell. That's the only one that I've seen in social media that the names kind of slipped out. Others have been kept fairly quiet, so we might get some surprises this week or next week. Hope not the last day of the window like we did last year when Ramsey signed for us. But yeah, hopefully we'll get some good names, some solid 2 or 3 names that are first team standard that can come in and pivot and crack on. And as Ross said, the league may be a challenge, but still not over yet. You know, I've seen 9 points being taken back before. It's not impossible, so we've got to just keep believing and keep going every single match.
It's like having Marvin Andrews on. Keep believing. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Too many cliches this evening.
Listen, Safi, it's been great to have you back on. Always good to have you on, buddy. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Likewise, Scott.
And
Pleasure.
Roscoe, good to see you as well. You're going to be back on Wednesday, potentially, post-match with Kyle from Rugby Park, aren't you?
Yes, we will find somewhere to do that post-match after hopefully a Rangers victory. So, yep, I will be back on Wednesday night and we'll have a review of that game for you.
Absolutely. So listen, before I let everyone disappear into their Sunday night, should say if you are not following us, of course you can across Twitter and Instagram. We're at This Is Ibrox. On Facebook, we are This Is Ibrox. Don't forget to toggle your notifications on so that each time we release one of our Sunday night podcasts or any other bulletins on the Monday and the Wednesday, and something that we're about to potentially tweak Friday, Saturday time. Keep an eye on that. We'll release it across our social media platforms probably during the week at some point. Like and subscribe the videos. You will really enjoy the content that we have coming up. Thanks again for joining us tonight. Craig Dennett will join you tomorrow night for more of the same. And as I say, Kyle and Ross are back on Wednesday. Thanks for joining us. Good night.